Hello everyone, and welcome to our Cadet Orientation Program Zoom meeting for the fall 2020 semester. We really appreciate everyone taking the time to join in today. We are excited to welcome all of you new cadets onto our team. I'm Cadet Ruxlow. I will be a fifth-year senior studying mechanical engineering this fall and am part of the planning staff for our fall 2020 in-person Cadet Orientation Program that will be taking place the first few days that we will be on campus. We know this has been a pretty confusing and chaotic time, but we're hoping to clear up a few things for you all and answer any questions that you have so far. So in today's brief, you guys are going to hear some acronyms or phrases that you're not yet familiar with. I thought I would break some of these down for you all in the next few months and years. In ROTC, these will become second nature to you guys though. So MS1, MS2, you'll hear that a lot, all the way up through MS5, like I just said. That just symbolizes your military science year. So MS1 would be military science first year, MS2 is second year, and so on. Usually that corresponds to your year in school. So MS1, you're probably a freshman, though it's not uncommon to see an MS2 or MS1 as maybe an upperclassman. COP stands for Cadet Orientation Program. PRT is physical readiness training. You might hear PT as well. That's just like another shorter abbreviation we do sometimes, but PRT is the proper term for that. FTX is field training exercise. That's our 3-day weekend exercise away from campus that we do each semester. ESTW is the Illinois State Tuition Waiver. When you hear lab, that corresponds to leadership lab, which is our 2-hour lab portion of class. We do practical exercises and get hands-on experience for what we learn in our classroom portion, and pretty much that's the fun stuff we get to do. And then cadre, you might hear a lot. Those are our instructors who are currently in or have served in the military before. And then some of them who also haven't served in the military, we call them cadre 2. And they're the people that work in our office that help us out with paperwork and scholarships and those types of things. So we have a few cadets and cadre here in our battalion who want to talk to you about some topics that we thought would be important information for you guys all to have while preparing to come to UIUC in the fall. If you were with us in April, some of this information may be a bit repetitive, but it's still crucial for those that haven't heard it yet to get the chance to. And also, since we're transitioning to a little bit different COP kind of structure, we're going from 4 days to 2 days. This is important information to get to you guys. And also, due to the current times, we want to make sure that everything is very clear. So our agenda today consists of making that transition from a high school student to the college and cadet life, balancing student and cadet obligations, where we will discuss what an average day looks like for our cadets, as well as some tips and tricks to be successful. The additional opportunities we have to offer in ROTC, including our internal clubs and extracurriculars. Later, Mr. Ashworth will go into a little bit about the Illinois State Tuition Waiver. We're going to talk to you about a few reminders for what to do and bring with you before you head to campus. And then we will conclude with a Q&A section. With that being said, please feel free to post any questions that you guys have in the meeting chat about today's topics, or really any topics that you could think of in regards to ROTC, student life, or anything else. We have multiple cadets here and cadre that will be more than willing to provide answers if we're able to. As questions come in, our moderator, Cadet Wallace, will either address them right away if they are relevant to the topic that's being discussed, or we'll save them for the end during our Q&A section, but all questions will be answered. And just so you all know, these slides will be sent out to all of you by Second Lieutenant Kim, so don't worry too much about writing down everything that you see on the slide, though we do encourage taking some notes for what's discussed. So on that note, let's go ahead and begin the presentation. First up will be Cadet Villalpando and Cadet Leclerc to talk about transitioning to college and cadet life.
Hi, my name is Cadet Leclerc. I'm going to be in MS3 in the fall, and my major is business. And me and Cadet Villalpando are going to be talking about the transition to college and cadet life. So COP, as Ruxlow already mentioned, is Cadet Orientation Program. We're going to teach you some basic Army lessons. You'll get to meet your superiors. You'll learn what's expected of you as an ROTC cadet, and you'll get to meet your peers and build teams. Next slide. So a little bit about the challenges and rewards you're going to face. The biggest challenge you're probably going to face when starting is time, just because balancing ROTC classes and your social life can get a little overwhelming. The only advice I have for that is to make sure you're staying on top of your work and do not procrastinate. And also make sure you're putting your classes and your ROTC responsibilities before your social life. But other than that, it's definitely doable and manageable. You have to make sure you're staying on top of your fitness and just to make sure that you're passing all your PT tests. This is especially important if you're looking to get scholarships or the ESTW, which we will talk about later on. And you also want to make sure you're taking care of yourself and your mental health. A big portion of this is getting enough sleep every night because you'll be waking up really early for PT, and getting enough sleep is going to help you recover both physically and mentally. Moving on to the rewards, being an ROTC is going to teach you a lot of leadership skills that your classmates aren't going to get. When you first start off, you'll be mostly seeing it done, but as you go to your MS2, MS3 year, you're going to be given positions of leadership, and that's going to be really useful to you in the future. You'll also get plenty of opportunities such as travels, internships, things like that. Not only will you get U of I education, but you'll also learn a lot of things that could be useful to you in the future, whether you pursue a military career or not in ROTC. And finally, you're going to build a lot of friendships and meet a lot of people that you have things in common with, and that's going to be super important for your first year of college. Next slide. Now Cadet Villapando is going to talk about the transition to student life.
All right, hello, I'm Cadet Villapando. I'm an upcoming MS2 and I'll be studying entomology. So here I will talk about the transition from high school to college life. So really the first thing you need to know is that when you transition, you're going to become more accountable for yourself, meaning you are going to have more responsibilities and you need to make sure that you're staying on top of those responsibilities. Because now that you're in college, a lot of it is up to you, what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. So you really need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So next is you need to be able to manage your time and prioritize the important things, because you're going to have the power to choose your own classes, what you're going to take, when you're going to have breaks, and all those sorts of things. So you need to make sure that you're taking the classes that you need and the classes that you want. Another thing is clubs and extracurriculars. There are clubs and things like that outside of ROTC, but you don't want to overload yourself with things because ROTC is really going to be a top priority for you. So as I said, you need to prioritize what's truly important. Next is, of course, you can have a social life, but you need to be careful what you're doing, what you're saying, who you're with, and how you're acting. Because if you join, you will be representing ROTC and you will be representing the Army as a whole. So you really need to make sure what you're saying. Another important thing is to make time to rest. You need to be getting enough sleep. It's important for your physical and your mental health. As Cadet Leclerc said, it's really important to be able to recover. So you need to be able to take breaks when needed and to really watch out for how you're doing mentally and physically. Next is to stay safe. There's a lot of fun things that you can do on campus and you have a lot more freedom to really go out and do what you want. You need to make sure you're keeping yourself safe and those around you safe. You don't want to jeopardize these important opportunities that you have because of one dumb decision. Next slide, please. So some advice I think is truly important for people is to ask for help or speak up. Nobody wants to look like an idiot, but honestly, it's best to ask questions, to ask for clarification, to ask somebody to maybe further explain if you don't understand. It really will help you out in the long run. It's something that you need to get over, is that fear. Another thing is, if you see something that's wrong, or if you see something you know shouldn't be happening, you shouldn't be afraid to speak up. It is a scary thing to do, but it really is up to us to make sure we're protecting each other and looking out for one another. Because once you join ROTC, you really are joining a part of the family. Another thing is to push yourself to get out of your comfort zone. It'll help you to figure out who you are, how you can improve, what you need to improve on, and maybe find interests you didn't know you had. Lastly is to make friends, to speak to your peers and your fellow cadets. You're going to meet so many lovely people in this program that may become some of your closest friends that are going to help you out, and you will learn from one another. You really will meet these wonderful people, and maybe some of them will become your best friends in the future. So that concludes our portion of the brief, and we really can't wait to meet you guys in the fall.
All right, thank you, Cadet Villapando and Cadet Leclerc. Next up, we're going to have Cadet Lim and Cadet Nelson, who will be discussing balancing student and cadet obligations, and we'll take a look at the average day as a cadet. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. So I'm Cadet Joseph Lim. I'm a finance major, and I'll be entering my MS3 or junior year. So pretty much the average day as a cadet, it's going to look something similar to this. This is very high level. So you're usually going to start out your day with PRT, or depending on what you're involved with within ROTC, some clubs. And so that can go from a minimum of 3 days a week being 6 a.m. PT, or like an even maximum of 6 days, depending on the clubs that you join. And then you're going to go to your normal classes. Usually people have anywhere from like 2 to 4 classes a day, including lab sometimes. And then if you decide to get a part-time job, some people do, but I would say most people don't have the necessity to. And then Cadet Nelson will take over.
Yeah, so after your classes are, previous slide. All right, so after your classes are over, you'll usually have extracurriculars. Now, of course, these are entirely optional. You could have as many or as few of these as you like. They tend to be at set times throughout the week, so you kind of have to schedule the rest of your afternoon around these. And many cadets like to work out outside of PRT, whether they're trying to improve their PT scores or training for some other fitness goal or a sport. So you have to, within your afternoons, make time for that. And of course, you are a college student first. This is an important thing to stress, so you need to make sure you stay on top of studying, make sure you understand what's going on in your classes for the test coming up, and you get all your homework done. So your afternoons can kind of consist of balancing these 3 things and making sure you get them all done. And then, of course, you need to, as said before, you need to make sure you're getting some sleep. Unlike most college kids with PT, you can't just stay up till 2 or 3 a.m. every night with no consequences. So next slide.
So this is a little bit of a personal slide showing my involvements within my 2 years. So freshman year, first semester, I'd say I was kind of exploring the different clubs that were both available in the program and outside, just in the business school or just social stuff. And I definitely wasn't as involved as I have become. But over the past couple of years, I've joined Ranger Buddy and Ranger Challenge. So that had made my PT schedule go to 6 mornings a week. I took over Scabbard and Blade, which is like a volunteering organization. And then I was really involved with the Ruck Club, which is, you'll learn more about that later on, but it's just kind of like another physical fitness club. And then my involvements outside of ROTC, I was a consultant in Illinois Business Consulting. I was in both a professional business fraternity as well as a social fraternity. And I also held a part-time job on campus. So that just goes to show that you can add on a lot of stuff while doing ROTC, while being pretty involved in ROTC. And if you are just careful with your time management, you can definitely fit everything in. But it also goes to show that you have a lot of time for other stuff outside of ROTC as well.
Yeah, so I was in MS1 last year, so I kind of started off late with activities, trying to focus on academics. I'm kind of on the other side scale with involvement. So my only activity within ROTC was color guard. And then outside of ROTC, I tried to be a bit more active. I was involved in track club. That was my intramural sport. I was involved in Engineers Without Borders, where we're doing a project trying to build a bridge in Malawi. And I was also involved in the InterVarsity Christian group. So kind of one way to look at how your schedules ends up being, if you've scheduled classes yet, you would have probably noticed that your Mondays and Wednesdays tend to be similar, and Tuesdays and Thursdays are similar, Fridays are their own thing. So that's kind of one easier way to keep your schedule. And another thing that makes it easier to balance is that a lot of it might look like you have a lot of activities, but they tend to be at the same time every week. So it's not, it tends to be easy to get into something of a rhythm, so it's easier to keep track of everything. So another thing my big tip with managing time was that I would kind of set aside the time between my first and last class that was school time. So beside maybe rushing in for a lunch, I'll try to do my homework for each class within any breaks I had between classes, while what I heard in lecture was fresh in my mind. And I found it was a lot easier to keep up with schoolwork doing that.
All right, thank you, Cadet Lim and Cadet Nelson. Next up, we have Cadets Joe and Lewis, who will be discussing different ROTC opportunities.
Hello, I'm Cadet Lewis. I'm an upcoming MS2, and I'm majoring in finance and accounting in the business school. First, I'll go over the mandatory training experiences that you'll have to be taking a part of. In the top left, you're going to have your leadership lab. You're going to be going on Thursdays for 2 hours to do hands-on activities that relate to the classes that you went through during the week. It gives you a lot of experience and helps further your military knowledge. In the top right, you're going to have your physical readiness training. You're going to be going 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at 6 a.m. in the morning for approximately an hour. And then bottom left is lane day or super lab. That's mostly for MS3s, but you can voluntarily decide to be an Op4, which is pretty much just the enemy, as an MS1 or MS2. And it really gets you a lot more hands-on experience, and you get to see from the other side how things work in the Army in general. And then the bottom right, you can see the FTX or field training exercise, where we go for 3 days to another military installation, usually Camp Atterbury in Indiana. And at that installation, there's going to be a lot of different opportunities for you to take part of. I mean, there's a full shooting range where you hopefully be able to take part in maybe shooting a weapon, and other opportunities that you can't really get at U of I. Next slide, please.
Hello, I'm Cadet Joe. I'm an upcoming MS3 and a political science major, and I'll be talking to you about ROTC clubs and activities. First off, as is noted on the slide, all of these are optional. You've got a big list, but ultimately it's up to you whether or not you want to do them. Most of these are outside of mandatory ROTC time. There's some overlap, but it's generally also on your own time as well. There's a lot of clubs. This list has most of them. There are some that aren't on the list, some new ones that are made this year. There's also a wide variety of clubs. Each club sort of focuses on its own thing. It serves its own niche and has its own purpose on developing you. You can generally narrow them down to 2 types of clubs, though. You have fitness or skill-related clubs, which focus on either training or developing a specific skill or niche, like Rifle Club, which focuses on shooting. And then you also have more social or growth-related clubs, which relate to sort of the representation of the battalion and the direct growth of the battalion through funds, like let's say from either Scabbard and Blade or concessions. My personal recommendations are that you just try them out. If you see one that interests you, just try it out, like attend one of their events or whatnot, or one of their club meetings, and ultimately if you like the club, you may stick with it. And also relate to that, if you do want to dedicate time towards ROTC clubs and activities, I recommend you stick with one, your favorite, because ultimately you may get a role in the club later down the line, which will require you to dedicate time to, and also just to prevent yourself from being overwhelmed by having multiple ROTCs or ROTC clubs. Next slide. Just some background information. Your MS1 and 2 year in the program are often the years where you have the least amount of actual responsibility. What this translates to is that you have more time to take advantage of these optional clubs or activities, ROTC opportunities. I know me personally, my MS1 2 year, I took advantage of that. I tried out most of the clubs, most of them on the list. I'm pretty sure I was involved in every single one of them at one point, or at least nearly every one of them. I know the club that I'm mainly a part of, or that I chose to invest my time into, was Ranger Club. I'll actually be leading it next spring. What I gained out of that was I went to all the optional opportunities, the Ranger Challenger buddy competitions, as were mentioned earlier, and as was on the activity slide. That was entirely on my own volition, but I gained the opportunity or experience from those events, which helped me grow as a person and as a cadet. There's also the fitness and skill aspect, where if you develop your own strength or speed, just your own overall physical fitness, that could also relate back to PRT, as was mentioned earlier by Cadet Lewis, which is a mandatory battalion activity. What I personally found to have gained from this as well is that, especially as an MS1, by taking part of these optional clubs or opportunities, you establish yourself in the battalion. We have a big battalion. It's around 80 cadets, I'm pretty sure. There may be 20, 30, 40 cadets in your class. You ultimately stand out among your peers and also get to interact with the higher classes, which you may generally not interact with at all, given military science classes are generally separate or whatnot. And also, more importantly, as was mentioned earlier by Cadet Villapando, you also develop friendships and bonds with those who you are in the club with, and not only just within your peers, but as I also said, you bridge the gap between you and the other classes, and you really feel as though you are part of the Fighting Illini family, that you have a place in this battalion. Next slide.
Now, a little background about me. A lot of the other cadets mentioned how there's regular students at U of I that aren't part of ROTC. I used to be one of them. I didn't join until my second semester of my freshman year. And it wasn't, for me, there was a big change. First semester, I still am, but I joined a fraternity, did all that, and I kind of felt empty. So I decided to join ROTC. And luckily, by chance, I took the mandatory military history course with Mr. Ashworth. So I was able to connect with him, and I was able to join ROTC and get all the opportunities that were offered. And it was a big change. I learned that I was really out of shape first semester. Really, I didn't really care about physical fitness or anything. So it was a big change. So the hardest part for me was passing the PRT test. And the one thing that helped me was joining Ranger Club and Ruck Club. It helped me get into a lot better shape, and it helped me to stay disciplined and focus on my body and on my mind. And what I gained from that is a lot of leadership and perseverance and enhanced physical fitness, like I said. And it also gave me additional hands-on experience, and that was really essential with missing my first semester, helping to catch me up and help me really learn a lot of the stuff that I missed. And that concludes our part of the brief. I can't wait to see you in August.
All right, thank you, Cadet Joe and Cadet Lewis. Next up, we have our scholarship and enrollment officer, as well as assistant of military science, or assistant professor of military science, Mr. Ashworth, who will be discussing the Illinois state tuition waiver and enrolling into ROTC.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Cadet Ruxolo, and thanks, cadets, for that rundown. Hey, I just want to take this time as a minute, because most of the students out there I've talked to either through over the phone, in person, or by email. Some of you are coming with scholarships already, and again, congratulations for the hard work you put in to get those. But for others, you may not realize it, that there are other opportunities to get financial assistance that I want to spend a couple minutes here to kind of run down, so that you're at least aware of it. You stand the best chance of obtaining one of these things, and I'll go into explaining that why. And that's one of the reasons why we mentioned this. This is also something that you may want to pass on to your parents, because again, lots of times the parents are the ones that end up flipping the college bill, and so they might want to know a little bit about this opportunity that you have. But basically, the Illinois state tuition waiver is not a U.S. Army benefit. It's a state of Illinois benefit. It's actually part of their law, and when they want to have a certain percentage of their citizens to have military training. And so what they've put in is for the major... Okay. Oh, okay. Anyways, but they've basically put in that for the major Illinois universities, and there's 10 of them that have Army ROTC throughout the state. Basically, they give waivers for students to try out ROTC to see if a military career is, something that they would like to pursue. That comes with no military commitment at this time. But it does give you the opportunity to try out ROTC and not just sit in class, but also participate in the labs and the physical fitness, so you get that sense of, being part of the unit. And in return, they pay the tuition for one semester. So it doesn't cover the whole bill, but it at least covers the tuition portion. And at the University of Illinois, that's about 50% of your bill. So again, that's not a bad incentive to just kind of, like I said, try it out to see if military is for you. Remember, it's not an entitlement, and it's certainly not a scholarship, okay? This is just something that you compete for, and 40 students will earn this every semester, okay? I mentioned it as far as people that are exploring, okay? So then obviously someone that's, been in the program for several years, they've probably figured out that they want to do this or not by then. But for new people, that's why we mentioned this to you. This is a good opportunity. key thing is that it's every semester, okay? So if you try it for one semester and you want to try it a following semester or the following semester after that, you're certainly more than welcome to do so. But please understand, it's primarily for those that are just trying it out for the first semester or two. So just realize it gets harder to maintain as you get higher and higher up the ranks, okay? It's also a program that the professor of military science, currently Major Johnson, is really in charge of running, okay? And what that means is he's dedicated as staff to kind of put together the rules and responsibilities and the regulations that cover this. So again, if you want more information on this, we can certainly more than provide that for you, but that's generally what the background is. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the benefits. Like I said, 100% of the tuition, just the tuition portion of your bill for one semester. We give out 40 of these every semester. And again, there's no commitment at this time. Again, it's truly something to try it out, and at least you get something if you complete the semester. Okay, so remember that there is a catch there that you have to complete it, all right? Okay, next slide. Okay, here's the requirements. Okay, you have to be a U.S. citizen and you have to be a resident of Illinois, and it's the Illinois state tuition waiver. Okay, you have to sign up not only for military science class, for most of you that's military science 101, and the corresponding lab. So that's usually for freshmen, that's military science 112. Okay, by the end of the semester, you must complete a physical fitness test where you achieve 50-50-50 as far as points on the standard Army physical fitness test. And I'll show you what those standards are in another slide. You have to meet the height weight standard, or at least show progress that you're going to meet that. Okay, we understand some people may come in a little overweight. We don't disclude them. They just realize that they have a little bit more work than someone that obviously is already under standard. You can kind of see the GPA that you have to have, not that really high. I can't fathom that you got into U of I if you didn't have at least a 2.5 GPA in high school, but you got to maintain at least a 2.0 for the whole semester. So, you know, we're looking for C's and above. So hopefully that's your goal too. You got to be a full-time student. Okay, so we always tell our students, always go for 15 credit hours. So if you have a course that, you know, I just don't really like this course, you can drop it and you still stay above the 12. If you start at 12 or 13 and you drop a course, then sorry, you lose out on this. So be careful on that. You have to participate in that FTX, that field training exercise that the cadets mentioned. And of course, then there's 2 events that you have to help me with. Basically, we feel that cadets are our best representatives, as you've kind of seen, you know, through this presentation, as far as being able to explain the program to other students. So lots of times we use the students to kind of help us with the recruiting as far as explaining it and things like that. So, and again, it's not tough, but it's just one thing you just got to be remembered that is one of the requirements. Okay, next slide. Okay, and then this is basically how you apply for it. During COP, you're going to get a 1-page application, and basically it's some personal information. It's going to ask you some basic information about what extracurricular activities you did in high school, some things, so that we kind of generally have an idea what your interests are in. And then, of course, we always ask for like a 1-page essay, just to kind of demonstrate that, you know, you can write and just kind of know what your future plans are. It's usually a question about something in the future. There's some documents you have to turn in, as you're saying. I always stress to students, and one of the reasons why we're sending this to you in July is hopefully y'all are working out already. But let's say you haven't. Say you've been really busy and you just haven't gotten around to it. Please start now. And the reason being is 50-50-50 as far as the APFT standard may not be achievable when you start, but what we don't want to see is a bunch of sore cadets, okay, because that makes continuing to improve as far as your physical fitness a lot harder. So if you at least kind of get started during the summer, you'll find it's an easier transition. Now listed there, I show the push-ups, the sit-ups, and the 2-mile run standard to achieve 50 points in each of those categories. Okay, And again, I can't stress, got to try to always, and just between you and me, you're going to want to pass 15 credit hours anyways, because basically that keeps you from having to take a lot of semesters where you have to do 18 or more credits. So that's always a key thing. Okay, next slide. Here are the classes. Just want to kind of let you know, you can kind of see there's 4 sections for the 101. And again, for the majority of you, hopefully you've already signed up for it. If you haven't, I understand that a lot of the students that have gone to guidance counselors have had their, I guess, their account blocked. You know, they don't want people changing it around a lot right now until everyone's in the system. So don't worry about that. But as soon as they unblock it, and they should be able to tell you, you know, in an email message or something that your account is free again, then you would want to sign up for one of those classes. And then of course below you see there's only one section for the basically the lab, and there's the PT times or the PRT times, and of course the Thursday 2-hour lab. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have to tell you as far as the Illinois State Tuition Waiver. Again, we're excited to have you. Hopefully this, you know, at least a little bit as far as the Illinois State Tuition Waiver has been helpful for you. And I'll pass it back to Cadet Rexlow.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ashworth. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what COP, our Cadet Orientation Program, in the fall is going to look like for you guys. Earlier, you heard a little bit about COP. That will be, like I said, taking place in person in the fall. I'm going to cover a little bit of an overview of the logistics and what that looks like. So we're still in the planning phases of this event due to having to wait to hear on the university's Welcome Week plans and as well as the COVID guidelines. But there is some basic information I can present here now. So it's new cadets. It's all of you guys. Some of the 2nd through 4th year cadets will also be there to help execute the events. To act as your squad leaders, that sort of thing, as well as our cadre are going to be there. Some of which whom you've heard of from today, and then others you will meet later on. Like I said, it's our orientation program. It's to welcome all of you into our battalion. We're glad to have you guys, and so we want to kind of give you that welcoming event that you deserve. When is this? Right now, our plan is to run COP in 2 iterations, so 2 days each, where each new cadet will only go through 1 iteration, not both of them. The tentative iteration dates are 19th through the 20th of August, which is the Wednesday and Thursday before classes, and then the 22nd and the 23rd of August, which is the Saturday and Sunday before classes. You will be assigned to an iteration based on your move-in dates. COP will likely run from about 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on each day, with a 6 to 7 a.m. PRT session on day 2. I know 6 a.m. kind of sounds rough, but it's really not that bad, and you kind of get used to it after a while. Again, we are in the tentative stages of planning, and we'll be adapting as more guidelines come from the university. But our main priority here is the safety of all of our cadets and cadre, which is why we are planning to split the group into 2 iterations, basically less people at once. Where is this happening? So we do a lot of our events in and around the UIUC Armory building, so expect most of COP to happen there, though there could be some other locations that we use that we'll let you guys know about later on. So why do we do this? COP is an informative, fun, team-oriented way for us to introduce you to some ROTC basics, college life, the UIUC campus, and to each other as new cadets and new students at UIUC. I remember my COP now 4 years ago, and I'm still best friends and actually roommates with many of the people that I met in those first few days. So it's a really good opportunity to get to know each other, get to know some of the other upperclassmen, and to get kind of oriented to your new environment, your new home and school. So Ms. Brown now will cover what documentation is required for you to bring with you to COP to complete enrollment into the ROTC program. Mrs. Brown.
Thank you. Hi, like you said, I'm Mrs. Brown, and some of the things you need to bring to help you get enrolled, especially if you're on scholarship or something like that. Excuse me, my voice has not been well lately. But the first thing some of the things I really want to stress, you can read those, but with birth certificate and your driver's license, of course, these need to be original documents. So you can't just take a picture of them or have it on your phone. You need to bring the actual hard copy along with your Social Security card. Most of you will not have your student ID by the time you meet up with me, so that's okay. We can get it once the school year starts, okay? I will need your final high school transcript, and if you'd like to, you can send that to me through Parchment, or have your guidance counselor send that to me at the address at the bottom of this page. All right. Also, we need each of you, if you have not taken your DOBMER physical, I know the scholarship students probably have gotten notification about that. Please, I believe Lieutenant Joy Kim sent out a safe to train physical. You'll need to go to your doctor, get a sports physical. You fill out page 1 and your doctor fills out page 2. So please go ahead and get that done really quick so that we can make sure that you're healthy enough to do physical training and things like that. And it's just, a lot of this stuff is mostly to protect you. So in case something happens, you get hurt, we need to make sure, one, we have your doctor and your dentist's name and address, and then being able to actually physically do that and making sure that you're gonna have, a lot of fun, safe training. The other thing is, if you're not a US citizen, I need you to bring your permanent green card. So please do that. Or if you are naturalized, please bring your naturalization. I have set up, or actually Lieutenant Kim has set up a doodle calendar for you to go ahead and sign up for enrollment times. If you've already enrolled with me, you do not need to do this again. Those of you who are scholarship, 4-year federal scholarships, I'm gonna reach out to you individually because it's just gonna be a little bit easier. And then I'll probably set up a one-on-one with you. Some of the other things that you may wanna bring to campus, of course, bring extra masks. It is what it is. And then the other thing you may want to bring is a set of dress clothes. And the reason why I say that is because there may be opportunities you wish to pursue while you're here at the U of I. So you definitely want to make sure you have a professional look. So you don't want to just say, hey, I got, blue jeans and a t-shirt. You may want to bring a suit, or you may want to bring a nice pair of slacks and a nice shirt, or a professional looking dress. So just to always have one of those. Good pair of tennis shoes, of course, you're going to be running. Guys will probably definitely need to bring a shaving kit, because you can't just look stubbly in the Army. And also bring some extra hand sanitizer. It's very important for you to have that. They will be hand sanitizers and things around campus, but you may want to have a small one to put in your purse or your backpack, just so, like, if you're not around anything like that, you can at least use it. I know that's sort of more of a motherly thing. I'm an old lady. I do get away with that. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. I've probably emailed most of you. I don't know if I've emailed all of you, but we really want to welcome you here in the fall. Like I said, if you have any questions, please let me know. And thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Ms. Brown. So next we'll have Second Lieutenant Kim, who's got some reminders for you guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Kim. For all you incoming freshmen here, I'm the one who has been sending you several emails regarding COP and enrollment. And so Ms. Brown, she already mentioned this, but I'm just going to emphasize this again. I sent everyone a doodle link to sign up for an enrollment appointment with Ms. Brown. But if you have not done that yet, please go ahead and check your emails for it. If not, my email is listed on this slide. Just send me a reminder email asking for a doodle link, and I'll get that taken care of for you. And for all the parents and students here, this exact slide set will be emailed to everyone so that you can go back to it just for reference. But if you have any questions at all, if you have any concerns about being a cadet, being a student, just reach out to me. My email is listed on the slide, and either I can help you or I can get you in contact with someone who can help you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant Kim. So this concludes the presentation portion of our meeting today. We will now go into our Q&A portion. Again, feel free to post any questions in the chat, or go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask your questions out loud. Go ahead and see if any questions start coming in. All right, so while we wait and see if anyone has any questions, we'll just do some basic ones real quick that I'm sure you guys would want to know. Maybe you can't think of it right now. So Cadet Wallace, if you kind of want to take the reins on this, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually do have one question here from Amir, and he asked if we could talk a little bit about what to expect at the distributed basic camp. So I believe this is one of the contingencies for COVID, if any of the cadre members have information on this.
Yeah, I can answer that one. Basically, Amir or anyone else that's got to go to the distributed basic camp, if you don't start ROTC as a freshman, or if you basically are getting a scholarship through the reserves or National Guard, but yet you haven't gone to basic training, you're required to go to what's called basic camp to get credit for basically military science 100 series and the military science 200 series are your first 2 years. That program is, again, called Distributed Basic Camp, and you're going to go there and then just kind of experience what being a soldier is like. It's different than the advanced camp, and probably some of the cadets can tell more about that, but that's a camp that you go between your junior and senior year where they focus on your leadership potential. But at basic camp, they just want you to get used to being a soldier, wearing the uniform, knowing when to salute, how to fire a rifle, maybe doing some rappelling, doing some basic land navigation, just like I said, the basic common soldier skills, so that these are a lot of the tasks that first year and second year cadets learn. And since you may or may not get that opportunity, that's why they send you to that camp. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, just do a follow-on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashworth. Okay, we got a couple more questions coming in. We'll answer them in the order that they came in. So the first one is about running, and she asks what the run time is for the Illinois State Tuition Waiver, and then just basic ways to get better at running this summer, which sort of goes into the question on the screen here. So for the Illinois State Tuition Waiver, you just need a 50% score on the run. And so for males, that's a 16:30 2-mile time. And for females, that's a 19:30. And to actually pass the APFT later on in the semester, you'll need a 60% on that. And so the times will be a little faster from each of those. But just improving your run score, the best way to do that, especially starting from, step 0, is just to start running. So I'll step in here a little bit. Like I've run quite a bit. I've run a marathon, and I would just say, pick 3 days out of the week that you want to run, and start with some short distances, especially if you've never run before. Maybe pick a mile for the first day and do that for a week. And then once you do that, maybe 3 or 4 times, step it up and do 2 miles. Really the only thing that's going to get you better at running, especially from, being a new runner, is just to go out and do it. Take it easy in the heat, make sure that you stay hydrated, and make sure that you, eat well the day that you run and everything like that, so that you don't, pass out. It's been very hot, I know, in the Midwest these past couple of days, but otherwise just get out as much as you can and go for the run. With respect to the state tuition waiver, just like Mr. Ashworth talked about, the state tuition waiver is, a tool for cadets that don't have the scholarship primarily right now. So it's for the cadets that are looking to try out ROTC, mostly freshmen and sophomore cadets. And so, as long as you're coming in and meeting those basic requirements of the physical standards, you should have a pretty good chance of actually getting it. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. It's about international student questions. So you don't have a social security number right now. Is that a must-have? So actually it's not, just like Ms. Brown talked about in one of the last slides here. Let me go check for it. Okay, so if you are a international student, you need to bring in your green card when you report to COP and send that to Ms. Brown and everything like that. Okay, let's keep going down the list
real quick
here.
on that before you move along.
Yes, ma'am.
I will need to see your I-94. So, and I'm assuming you're not a permanent resident. We'll have to do a few other paperwork. So if you can email me at the AROTC, and I can give you a little bit more information because it's a little bit more than that. And I do need some kind of number. They may give you one as a permanent resident where you would have like a social security number. So why don't you talk with me offline, please?
All right, thank you, Ms. Brown. So the next question is actually about flying in the Army, and it says, is there any club or class to prepare for the SIFT? The SIFT is the selection instrument for flight training, and it's the test that cadets would take if they wanted to be a pilot in the Army. So we don't actually have anything official to prepare you for the SIFT. That's a responsibility that falls on your shoulders, but we have cadets every year that have done it, you know, and the MS4s that are here in the program will have taken the SIFT. So when it comes time for you to take it, usually you would take it your junior year or your MS3 year. There will be people that have already taken it and they can help you through. There's plenty of resources online. I'm actually studying for the SIFT myself right now, and the biggest resource I'm using is the FAA's helicopter handbook. So don't worry about that too much until you actually make it to your MS3 year. So the next question, do we get food on campus? How do we get food on campus, and how do we choose our meal plan? Okay, so this is more of a university question. The dorms obviously have the meal plans for the students that are living in them. If you're living in an apartment, obviously you would have to go, you know, grocery shop for yourself. I'm not exactly sure what is changing this year because of COVID with the meal plans and everything like that. But this would likely be something that I would say email your advisor about if you don't have a meal plan. You can also, you know, try and look up the university meal plan options. If any of the other cadre are aware of anything special going on with the meal plans, they can chime in.
Well, so I've heard the dorms are doing, a lot of the dorms are probably moving to a takeout only option unless they've changed that plan to do some dine in. But usually, yes, you need your student ID card. I'm sure if they're not handing out student ID cards in the first few days, just because summer registration didn't happen as it normally does, they're going to have some way for you to still get your meals that you have signed up for in your meal plan.
Okay, thanks, Cadet Ruxlow. So the next one is just anything besides what Ms. Brown already stated for the supplies and the clothing that you need to bring this year. So that's basically it. Everything Ms. Brown talked about is what you would need. Like she said, make sure you bring face masks this year. Is going to be a huge thing everywhere. You go on campus, bring a nice set of running shoes to work out in. You'll need that during COP, and of course, you know, just athletic clothes as well until we supply you your physical training uniform. Besides that, again, bring a nice set of clothes. You'll actually need a suit or a nice set of clothes to interview for the Illinois State tuition waiver. Talking a little bit. Oh, go ahead, ma'am.
May I add something? I mean, when you're moving in, not everything's going to be provided to you. So you may need to bring like sheets, pillowcases. I didn't really think that route, and I probably should have. Things you want to put in your room, you know, pens, those things that you're going to need for school that are not, you know, that you would normally get. So you may want to do something like that, you know, have a shower, like you're not going to be at home. So you're going to have a little caddy to have your shower things in. So things like that you would need that you would normally go like to Walmart or Target to get. Don't go overboard by any means, but make sure like you have, and a lot of times housing has this stuff on their website. So it's housing@illinois.edu. I'll put it in the chat, but check on there as well. And when you know, I mean, I'm sure some of you may know what dorms you're moving into. And normally dorms are usually for freshmen. I'm not saying that upperclassmen can't move into the dorms, but all freshmen are mandated to live in the dorms. So, and if you have any questions, definitely check out the housing website. There are some things we're going to try and do, but until the university releases that, it'll be easier just to tell you once.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I'm seeing a lot of questions about the uniforms and the uniform standards, so I'll just answer those in bulk. So yes, you do use the Army issued PT uniform to work out in. That'll be issued to you once you get to COP, so you don't have to worry about anything right away. I would show up to the first day of COP just in athletic clothes with those running shoes like you're instructed to. And then, yes, the uniform standards we follow are the Army uniform standards here, AR 670-1. I see that in the chat here. So if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it right now. That's the whole point of COP. And, you know, we'll teach you everything you need to know. But if you're interested or you do already know about these standards, then of course it's not going to hurt to already, show up complying to them. So I also see some other questions talking about the federal scholarships or the non-ISTW scholarships. So Mr. Ashworth is the best authority on these, and I'll let him take it away from here, sir.
Okay, so basically, as far as the Army is concerned, if you come to the university with a scholarship, that's great. We can, run a PT test. Once you pass the PT test, make sure your medical, physical is good. Then you contract and you start getting scholarship benefits as a freshman. If you come to the university without a scholarship, the earliest we can get you a scholarship is the first day of your sophomore year. Now, how does that work? Basically, if we miss the national scholarship process that they give at high school, then what we have to do is we got to tell the military or show them, demonstrate that you can do college level work. So that means the first semester, Mrs. Brown and I'm going to take a look at your grades. And let's say you get really good grades your first semester. And we'll also look at your PT scores, seeing maybe they're not, up to the level they have to be, but you continually improve. So you're getting closer and closer there. Then we're going to go ahead and talk to you during this spring semester of your freshman year saying, hey, we really think you got a shot at getting a scholarship. Do you want to compete for it? Now, again, with scholarships comes a military commitment. So that's one of the reasons why the Illinois State tuition waiver is primarily focused on freshmen, because most freshmen don't come in with a scholarship. So this kind of helps them through that first year. And the goal is that hopefully if you find out, hey, I really like doing this military stuff, I want to do this after I graduate from college, then yeah, we spend the spring semester of your your freshman year getting all the medical, physical, all the paperwork needed so that we could submit you before the board. Hopefully you get approved at the board. We'll get notified hopefully near the end of the spring semester that you were accepted, and it starts the first day of the following semester, which would be your first day of your sophomore year. So that's generally how scholarships go. Now, there are a lot of scholarships, okay? So these are not that difficult to get. The key thing is to come, and if you're interested in it, to continually show improvement. Other scholarships can be done by going through the National Guard and the reserves. I'm not going to spend time here talking about those, but if you are interested, contact that Army ROTC web or that email that was listed on the slides and ask your question, and then I'll get in contact and I can talk to you one-on-one. I'll be glad to tell you everything you need to know on those. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. So Ben, I'm going to get to your question real quick, but I just want to answer this question about the gear issue real fast. So he's asking about gear he already has issued from another unit, and that's known as the TA-50. Again, don't worry about all this stuff if you don't know what it is, but we're going to issue you all the gear you need to be an ROTC once you get here. If you already, are in the National Guard or something like that and you have gear, you're still going to draw the gear from the university here. And that's because, if you use that gear from the National Guard in training here and it breaks, then you might be liable for that broken equipment. So, you're definitely going to draw the equipment you need here. And I would say use it as much as you can too, because if it breaks in the training that we do, then you're not liable for it. But if you break some of your unit's gear, you might end up being liable for it. So again, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, don't worry about it. We're going to issue you everything during COP or the week afterwards once you get on campus. So Ben asks about the summer training opportunities for ROTC. So the two primary summer training opportunities are basic camp and advanced camp. And basic camp, like Mr. Ashworth talked about, is sort of a supplemental training event. If you join ROTC without 4 years to complete everything, it gets you up to speed. And then advanced camp is essentially the assessment you go to between your junior and senior year. So once you've already contracted with the Army, you'll spend, a few weeks over the summer at Fort Knox in Kentucky, and you'll test some of the skills that you've learned there. This year, of course, that was actually canceled because of COVID, but normally it's a huge event. There's thousands of cadets that go down there, and it's a awesome way to meet people from around the country, and you learn a lot about yourself. So beyond that, of course, there are schools like you mentioned, like Airborne and Air Assault. There's more schools. There's like the basic mountaineering course. There's language schools like Project Go that are open to the whole, Department of Defense, where you can either go to a stateside university or go abroad and study for the summer to learn a language. All of those are competitive. So of course, you want to be the best candidate you can be once you get here and once you apply for those. But if you're a freshman, don't worry about them quite yet. Just learn about getting here and learning the ropes. Okay, I see a question about the DODMERB. So you completed the DODMERB when you're applying for the Naval Academy. So you shouldn't need to take it again. I did the same thing. I applied to West Point, did the DODMERB, and they were able to use it, for my DODMERB for ROTC. Unless Mr. Ashworth or Ms. Brown have anything else to add about that, I believe that should, fully apply.
Yeah, so let me pick my dog off. So with the DODMERB, if you did it in the Naval and you have a qualified, all we're going to do, why don't you email me with your name and, or actually, why don't you call me? Sorry, I just realized I probably am going to need your social. So call me at 217, well, it's on the slide too, the 217-244-1407, and it's on the bottom of every one of my emails. Email me or call me, and then what I'll do is I'll ask them to transfer your DODMERB, your qualified DODMERB, into our FICE code, or to our university. Sorry, I didn't mean to go super technical. And then we should be good to go.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So I believe that was all the questions that have been asked. If I missed one of them, you can either resend it or just unmute yourself and mention that you missed it.
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as far as like all the clubs, is there a website where we can look at all the descriptions of the clubs, or will we just learn about that in COP?
So we do have a website for our ROTC program, but you'll be briefed on everything at COP or at the first week of school. So you'll definitely get that information, once you're on campus and here. As far as what the actual link for the website is, I think Mr. Ashworth can paste that in the chat so that you guys can go and check out what we have online.
I also recommend checking out our Facebook page, our Instagram page. A lot of the time our Facebook page has little snippets of the events we do, and with a good paragraph description of, what we did, what it was for, who did it. So that'll give you some information maybe into the events and things that the clubs do. So that's a good source of information as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cadet Ruxlow. If anybody else has any questions, feel free.
I just went ahead and put the Instagram handle for our ROTC page in the chat box so that everyone can check it out.
Way to go, Lieutenant Kim, you beat me.
So, Mr. Ashworth, we can either go into some of our kind of pre-developed questions we have, or we can call it either way you want to work it out now.
You could go ahead and run through those questions. I would just say, just obviously skip over the ones that we've kind of covered. Again, my intent is we just want to make sure that everyone at least has an opportunity to ask their questions. Like Nina, you mentioned about the clubs. Do you want us to talk specifically about one specific club that interests you? Because I don't want to. Yeah, we'll provide you a lot of detail once you get here, but if you are curious, we've got several cadets that could answer a specific question or two.
I was actually interested in like the rifle club, learning a little bit more about that one.
Okay, can any of our cadets talk to her about the rifle club? It's kind of cool club. Come on, someone.
I can talk about it. So I'm commissioned already, but when I was a cadet, so I actually was the captain of the rifle club during my cadet years, and essentially we will train in the Army. We have our own range, which is also a built-in gym, and a few times a week, once a week, twice a week, kind of depends on semester and on everyone's availability, but we shoot air rifles in that range, so we use little pellet guns, and essentially that helps all the cadets that join kind of develop their fundamental shooting skills, so that when you do pick up an actual rifle for the first time, all those fundamental skills, they translate from the air rifle to the actual rifle. And then within that club, sometimes we will compete at local competitions, and I think we placed second last time we competed against, I think it was there's other local clubs. So it's a really fun time, and I recommend it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, go ahead, Cadet Ruxlow, and yeah, just like I said, zip through them, and like I said, if there's one that seems to jump out at you.
Sure. It looked like we had one question in the chat that was, what advice do you have for all of us as rising freshmen diving into ROTC? Do one of you, maybe MS2s or MS3s, want to give a quick snippet on that?
Yeah, I can. I'd say just kind of explore everything, take things really slow, because you don't want to get too overwhelmed at first. You can always ask questions, especially to like your direct line, like your squad leaders and your team leaders. And I'd say don't be afraid to ask questions. Like no question is a dumb question the first couple of weeks. And just kind of see what the program is about, what each club is about, and you'll find your way and you'll find things that you like.
All right, so while we kind of wait for more questions to come through, we'll just drive through some of our questions that we have come up with and have been asked in the past from cadets and future cadets. So can you be involved in other college activities and ROTC? Yes, you absolutely can. I know we hit on that multiple times, where a lot of our cadets mentioned some of the other clubs and activities they were doing. Greek life included, like that question, second question asks. A lot of us do some Greek life. I was in a fraternity for some time. I know there's a lot of our females are in sororities as well. That's all possible. Quad day, what is that I've been hearing about? Well, it's a little different this year. I'm not too sure what the university's plans are for their welcome week, which includes quad day. It's where you kind of go around and check out all the RSOs and the extracurriculars that the university has to offer. So I would just kind of be on the lookout from the university for that specific event, as well as your other welcome week type events. It's a big campus. Is there enough time between classes to make them? Usually. It depends kind of how you shape out your schedule. I know when I was a freshman, I had a class on like the North Engineering quad and then down on like the main quad. And it can be a struggle. I had to buy a bike, but it worked out. You know, you make it. If you have to walk in a minute or two late, don't, you know, feel like it's the end of the world. My very first class ever as a freshman, I was like 20 minutes late because my roommate accidentally locked me out of my dorm room, and I had to like get a spare key and a towel. So don't worry, it all works out. And yes, you can make it. Just maybe consider that when you're making your schedules. If anyone wants to kind of jump on the line and ask a question out loud, you can do that and interrupt me too.
So we have a question from Allison about how the ISTW gets reflected on the financial aid summary. So Ms. Brown, do you have the specifics on this?
Yes, thanks. So what's going to happen is once you turn in your application, we're actually going to take a little time to basically look at you and see, you know, how you're reacting, you know, and also give you that chance to say, hey, you know, I tried this. I'm really not a fan. Or I tried this is the best thing ever. Yes, I definitely want to do this. And then once we've gotten together, we've made our decisions on who's going to receive it. I send a list up to financial aid. It gets posted to your financial aid within a week. Within a week after we decide. So it will be on your student account before tuition is due. So it won't be there like, you know, the first few days of class. It's a lot. There's a lot of moving pieces going on during that time, as well as being able to make sure that this is really something you want to do. So we're going to actually have a little like a trial period for you. And that way there's not a lot of convoluted stuff going on with your financial aid. We want to make sure that we have everything straightened out when you come. With federal scholarships is a little bit different. So we are going to probably push that a little bit faster, but I will get with you offline on that because it's just a little bit more difficult and I don't mean difficult as in hard. I mean difficult as in explaining it in less than a few seconds. So I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to add to that and stuff for the parents out there. You have one of two options. Either you can pay the whole bill, and then basically what'll end up happening is once, you know, Mrs. Brown gives the list, obviously that tuition amount will be credited back to you in the account. Or if you know exactly what the tuition portion of the bill is, just subtract that amount from the total and pay the rest. And then, yes, the university, they'll say, hey, you haven't paid your whole bill yet. When are you going to get to it? And then, like Mrs. Brown said, usually about the 15th of September, 20th of September is usually by about the time everything gets finalized. And then, like I said, it should, you know, hit, and then you'll make it before any late fees and all that stuff start kicking in and things like that. But if you have any questions about it, if you have any concerns, yeah, just call or email Mrs. Brown and we'll get the answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have another question, and it's about part-time jobs in the ROTC program. So no, we don't actually have any part-time jobs within the program. Once you contract as a cadet, that's, you know, signing a contract and committing to the United States Army, then you actually do get a stipend. And I believe that's a flat stipend now. You can correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but I believe it's $420 a month now.
That's right.
And so they actually give you some money to help you out while you're going to school. In addition to that, once you contract, you also get $600 a semester for books and you know, other materials like that you might need for class. So they definitely help out cadets. You know, once they commit their time to the Army, they'll help you out and make sure that you don't necessarily need to take on a part-time job just to make it by during school. Like Cadet Lim mentioned earlier, though, it is common. There are cadets that do have part-time jobs just so they can, you know, make a little extra money for whatever reason. And that's totally doable as long as you balance your time. But actually within the program itself, there's no, you know, part-time jobs or anything like that. So, and then we'll actually start talking about this slide here, just about the physical readiness training. So the first question, how much running do we do during PRT? So we do a fair amount of running. Running's a pretty big part of being in the Army. Just general aerobic fitness is an important part of being an officer and a soldier. So we're gonna run in some capacity every day. Usually, you know, one day out of the 3 PT days a week might be dedicated to running, while the other 2 days are dedicated to some kind of circuit training, ab training, stuff like that. So we make sure to vary it up, but you know, you want to make sure that you start running as soon as possible so you're ready for the semester when it starts in about a month and a half. So how long is morning PRT? It's usually about an hour. Especially this year, we've made it a point to try and keep PRT within that hour time frame so that you have time to shower and have breakfast and get ready for your day as a college student. So do we do PT outside during the winter? Yes, we do, and it depends on the weather. Generally, the cutoff is freezing, so if it's below 32 degrees, then we'll stay inside. Of course, if we need to stay inside to use any specific equipment for the workout of the day, we'll do that too. And by inside, I mean inside of the Armory. The Armory has a 200-meter track indoors, so we can use that when it's cold outside. Besides that, we also issue you winter PT clothing. So you'll have a jacket and long wind pants and everything you'll need to PT when it's kind of cold outside. So don't worry about that. And we actually have one more question coming in the chat. So it's studying abroad in Taiwan. Is that allowed, and does it affect your OML? So studying abroad is totally possible. I know several cadets that have done it. I think generally it's more favorable to study abroad in your underclassmen years than your upperclassmen years because they're a little more rigid. But of course, you know, everything can be worked around in some way. And if any of the cadre have anything to add on to that.
Yeah, let me just kind of jump on that too.
Yes, sir.
What you're gonna end up doing is you would do basically let's say you signed up for your study abroad the second semester of your freshman year. Okay, so ROTC you would basically do independent study, and you'd just take your courses and you know you'd get the check of the block as far as completing ROTC. And then when you come back, you just jump back in as if you were there for that semester. Cadet Wallace is correct as far as we really shy, particularly the junior year. That year is totally dedicated to preparing you for summer camp in between your junior and senior year. So if for some reason you can't do it in your freshman or sophomore year, then you probably should look at trying to get it in your senior year. There are some majors that require a semester to study abroad. So, I mean, it's something that, you know, we obviously got to respect because we want you to get your degree. The key thing is to plan ahead. The fact that you're even thinking about it now before you even get here, that's a great job. And just kind of keep us informed of what your plans are, and we'll give you the best recommendation that won't interfere with your ROTC requirements. Anything else, Mrs. Brown?
Yeah, and I'd sort of typed it in the chat. Usually sophomore year is the ideal year, and or your first semester of your senior year. I don't really like going on the senior year, but that's like the second time, or your second semester of your freshman year. It's according to who you're working with in regards to your study abroad. If you're working through the university office, there's quite a few things you're going to need to do. So please, as early as you know, you need to get in touch with them and find out what their requirements are and what semester you want to go. Normally, if you're global studies, you will be going abroad one semester. However, with COVID, a lot of things have changed. So we have to be cognizant of some of the new regulations that's going on. And that also goes with Project Go as well. So definitely, if you want to do that, that would be great. I think how it affects your OML, it probably doesn't as much if you go your sophomore year. If you go your junior year, you might just, and I don't know if it's mandatory for your junior year. This Hongbo, yeah. I don't know if it's mandatory for your junior year Hongbo, but you know, definitely check in with your advisor, see what is going on with them, and also check with the university's study abroad office, and do it as soon as possible that you know, because there are scholarships and other things that are available to you to study abroad. And if you're too late in getting them, yeah, it's just gonna be tough luck. So please feel free to email me and ask me about some of these things. I do have that information, so. Yeah. And
Thank you, ma'am.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
So Nina asks about Project Go and if that also counts for credit. So that absolutely will, you know, factor into your score, your Order of Merit List score, once you start to get evaluated as a junior. Anything that you do in addition to being a cadet, you know, are things you can add on to that resume. And essentially now it is a resume. So, you know, these things will all help you out. Again, that's as long as it doesn't actually interfere with the necessary training that you have to do in order to commission. So
It'll also count toward, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Brown, that's what I was gonna ask.
Oh, it'll also count towards your language requirement. So if you didn't have if you're in the College of LAS, let me start at that point, and you didn't have 4 years of language, you're gonna be either taking some here or taking a pretest. I can't think of what's the name of it right now. And once you take that pretest, it'll give you where you place, and then you would take another placement test if you can, or one where you can just test out of it. So definitely something to look forward to if you're in LAS. Also, other colleges on campus like ACES, I believe it's only 3 or 2, and others are 3. So definitely, language is a very crazy thing on this campus. And if you only, let's just say you only took 2 years of Spanish and you're in political science, you're gonna have to take a few more. So definitely reach out to us, let us help you, especially with, you know, your academic plans, because we can help. Thank you.
thank you, ma'am. If there's no other questions in the chat, we'll just keep going down the list here. I think Cadet Joseph Lim has some answers to offer.
Yeah, so the next question, do you get graded on your physical fitness? So every year there's going to be a certain set of standards that you want to be meeting and you want to be improving with every PT test you really take. And for our PT tests, so far we've taken about 1 a month. And as long as you're going on an upward trend, you'll be doing fine with your actual grade. The next question, what happens if you can't pass the PT test when you arrive on campus? So like Mr. Ashworth mentioned, if you're on that Illinois State tuition waiver, you really just want to be meeting at least that 50-50-50 standard that first semester you're there. And if you show great effort and reach out to the people that you need to, or join certain clubs like Run Club, you won't have a hard time passing that standard.
All right, thank you, Cadet Lim. So just to move on to these questions, how many students do we have in Army ROTC? So we usually have somewhere between 90 and 110 every year. It changes throughout the semester as people, you know, join and leave. But we have a pretty good sized battalion. And a good way to put it is it's really a family within a family. So the University of Illinois is a huge school. I know, you know, I was kind of scared of it when I first showed up. There's 45,000 students and it's basically a small city. But Army ROTC gives you that, you know, 100 people, and you can at least know everybody's name, and then you can find, you know, your friend groups within and people to talk to and hang out with. And it really gives you that support group that you need in such a large university. So I know I'm really close to a lot of the people in my class. I'm roommates with 4 of them. And, you know, these are friends that I'll carry throughout my career in the Army, and just, you know, outside of the Army, these are people that I'll know for the rest of my life. So it's there to give you that. So we have a question about JROTC in high school. And does it benefit you in any way? So if you're starting as a freshman, I believe, you know, it's going to help you out. You're just going to, you know, have that experience maybe with the drill and ceremony and the fitness, and that'll help you. But beyond that, I don't think there's anything specific, you know, points or anything that it adds to your OML. If Mr. Ashworth has anything else to say about that.
Yeah, the main thing you hit on the right on the head there, Cadet Wallace, is the experience. You're going to come in with a whole lot more experience than the average cadet, so that will play favorable for you. It'll be obvious from the cadre that you kind of know what's going on already. You may get a leadership position a little quicker because of that. However, really the only benefit it could possibly give is for every 3 years of junior ROTC, you can basically miss 2 semesters of military science. So we have some, you know, that, well, I came in, I've got 4 years of junior ROTC, and they can go right into the military science 201 class. Now, typically what we do is we kind of evaluate when you're going to graduate. If you're a brand new freshman, we'll probably keep you in the 101 class just so that you stay with the cadets you're going to graduate with. But I mean, you do have that option. And for some people that maybe start the program a little late or something, that getting that extra year of credit actually pays off for them. But again, like Wallace said, the experience is the key benefit that you're going to have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. We're going to actually go on to Cadet Raven Joe to talk about some of these questions here.
All right, hello, I'm Cadet Joe. I think we left off at the, was it the second or third question?
This is a new slide.
Oh, all right. So then the first question, how many students do AROTC? At the beginning of the year, you'll have a lot of new incoming MS1s or 2s or freshmen. So the program numbers start out pretty high. I think it's upward of 100 even. And then as the year goes on, the numbers will kind of dwindle, but it'll still stay really high, around 80 or 90 respectively. I know the MS1 class this year made up roughly around half of the battalions, so they had an overwhelming representation, but generally the numbers decrease each year, but there's still a lot of students doing ROTC, both in your class and just in general. The second question, how does ROTC rank structure work? You have the different ROTC classes, MS 1s through 5s. For your 1s and 2s, the rank structure, you're all kind of even. You all have the same rank of just 1 and 2, like especially within the battalion. As a 2, you may have a different position. You may have the opportunity to be a squad leader, which would normally be ahead of your rank. It's mainly during your 3 and 4 year where your rank or like position in the battalion really matters. But just generally, your first couple of years, the rank structure, you're all generally the same rank as the peers in your class. As for how is the battalion organized?
Real quick, Cadet Joe, we have a question in the chat, so I'm going to stop you real quick. So Grace O'Brien asks if the APFT will still be used for the next year or 2, and then the changes to the APFT. And she's actually talking about the Army Combat Physical Test, physical fitness test that's actually coming out here soon. So that was originally scheduled to take over this October, but it's changed around because of COVID. And the normal Army physical fitness test is still the test of record that we'll be using, at least for now, in ROTC. So you guys are a class where once you join and through your time, it might change, but for now, we're still just going with the Army physical fitness test. And that's includes everything from the ESTW and, you know, applying to scholarships for now. And of course, the ACFT is going to take over. The date for that is pending, so we don't actually know right now, but during PRT and everything like that, we'll be doing exercises to get you prepared for the ACFT. That was a big emphasis this year, and that'll continue to next year, regardless of when they actually change that date. We're still going to be preparing for that new test. But for now, don't worry about it. We're still just going to be doing the same push-ups, sit-ups, and 2-mile run that you've heard about throughout this presentation. So I'll throw it back to Raven Joe.
Thank you, Cadet Wallace. For the third question, how is the battalion organized? it's organized into 2 companies, which are then organized into 2 platoons with 3 squads each. So the squads make up, like, I think around 4 to 6 or maybe even 7. And then it's the companies, it's just the 2 platoons. So it's mainly just divided up into 4 platoons of around, I think, 20 to 25 cadets. So that's sort of the main organization. As I mentioned earlier, as a 3 and 4 in the battalion, you'll have your own specific position. But as you're entering into the battalion as a 1 and 2, you'll generally just be a part of that 4 platoon formation. And then for the 4th question, what are the expectations for new cadets? This is a phrase you're going to hear a lot if you join the battalion, especially if you're new. Right time, right place, right uniform. That's the 3 real expectations for you when joining or entering the battalion, especially your first year. If you can satisfy those, then that's kind of the bare minimum that's expected of you. There's also passing PT and maintaining not being on academic probation, maintaining a passing grade with the university. Generally just very minimum expectations. There is ultimately just time allowed for you to sort of develop yourself, especially when you're entering in. But yeah, just right time, right place, right uniform. Those are the 3 big ones that you need to make sure to meet.
All right, thank you, Cadet Joe. Just to add to that, you should always come to every ROTC event with, open ears, listening to what people are telling you, and then the ability to ask questions too. You guys have done an awesome job today asking the questions, but if you don't ever know something, you should, ask the question and find out the answer to what you didn't know. A lot of people can be intimidated by the military at first. There's a lot of new terminology that we use. It's very foreign to some people. And so it's totally okay to ask those questions, especially when you're new. That's what ROTC is really all about. So Cadet Ruxlow, I believe, is going to take it from here.
Yeah, all right. So this concludes our new cadet brief. We want to thank everyone for attending the meeting today and hope this clarifies some of the things as we approach the beginning of the fall semester. We just want to remind everyone that we will hold one more Zoom session for you guys during the first week or 2 in August, just to kind of give you that finalized plan for the COP program that we're going to be doing. Keep an eye on your inbox for more updates throughout the semester for the rest of the summer. And if anyone has any more questions, feel free to stay on the line to ask. A few of us will hang behind just in case you have one you don't really want to ask in front of everybody. So that concludes our meeting. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thank you.
Have a great summer, everyone.
Yeah, go ahead, Edgar, if you got a question. Yeah, 3 miles most days that's a great way to practice. 3 miles is like that sort of perfect distance between a tempo workout and like a long distance workout. So if you're doing that consistently, just keep doing it. Maybe, step up the mileage a couple days of the week, or, maybe do some sprints a couple days of the week as well. Those are the 2 other things once you get that base level of running fitness you can do to start, actually increasing that plateau. So good job. So I wouldn't consider myself a qualified nutrition at all. Maybe some of the other cadets are majoring in this, but the big thing is just to make sure you plan out your meals through your day. Of course, you want to eat healthy, but for a lot of college students, just eating is a problem. Like they're so busy that they can't find time to get into the dining hall or anything. So definitely make sure you plan time for 3 square meals a day so that you're not missing out. You guys have the dining halls. Like Cadet Ruxlow said, it's going to be takeout this year. So that's very convenient, and definitely take advantage of that, because later on in your college career, you'll live in an apartment, you'll have to cook and all that, and that'll just add a lot of chores. So just make sure that you're getting enough food, getting enough water for the day is at the bare minimum.
So for the which iteration of COP you need to show up for, this is going to be based on how the university assigns your move-in dates. So obviously, if you have like a later move-in date, we'll put you in that later COP iteration. If you have an earlier one, like the week before, we'll put you in that earlier one. That'll come out closer in the first few, like 1 to 2 weeks of August. Hopefully in that first week of August, we can get that information to you guys. You have plenty of planning time.
Yeah, I would say also to anyone that's still on the line and stuff, if there's a one that fits better for your schedule, just let us know. Send an email to Lieutenant Kim, and then we can kind of keep that in our list of data when we start putting people to spots.
Edgar asks about a good barber on campus. There's a ton of good barbers. Everybody's probably got their own that they're going to plug, but I'll plug GNR. I think it's on 6th and Green. A lot of ROTC guys have gone to her in the past. Her name's Grace, and she does like $13 haircuts, so it's a little expensive, but she does a good job, and she's very consistent, and that's like one of the harder things I've found is just getting a consistent military haircut each time. So.
And it's super fast. You can just walk in and she'll have you out in like 10 minutes. Hey, we're just kind of waiting on the rest of everyone else to leave. If they have any more questions they can ask, but I just want to say thank you to all the cadets that presented today. You guys did a great job. We appreciate your help there. Gave a lot of good insights. So thank you. You guys are free to leave if you want to as well. You don't have to stay on the line.
Yeah, good job, Lemon Joe. I sort of threw those curveballs at you so it wouldn't just be me talking forever. So Edgar talks about doing group workout sessions besides the mandatory class. So of course they talked about the clubs, like Ranger Club will do lots of workouts in the evenings and on the weekends as well. Ruck clubs usually on the weekends. And then of course you have your own squad when you're a freshman or a sophomore in the program. And so of course, they can get together and decide to plan a workout after ROTC hours as well. That's a great way to just like build cohesion as a squad and get to know people. So those are the official sessions, and then of course there's always opportunity for unofficial stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely still hang out with the friends we made freshman year. Tim Wallace, the guy who's been talking, he's been my buddy since freshman year. We actually live together now. My buddy Cullen O'Connor, he just commissioned and graduated. He and I were roommates freshman year. So yeah, you definitely make a lot of friends in ROTC that you hang out with the whole time. You also make friends outside of ROTC that you hang out with a lot too. I'm still buddies with a couple of people that I lived with on my floor. So yeah, it's a cool atmosphere. You see these people every day. So
shout out to Lieutenant Kim. We've all been friends since freshman year too. And just to go off of that, that's sort of a cool thing too. You get to know people that are older than you and younger than you in the program, and people commission and go off all around the world. So, I have friends that are in Korea right now, that are in Germany, that are in Alaska, and all over the continental United States. So, it's a small army, and if you end up sticking with it, you'll know these people for the rest of your career. So. Thanks, man. We appreciate all the questions. Excited to have you for this semester.
Yeah, we got to get a prize for Edgar. He had by far the most questions.
Yes, sir.
He just flipped on his video and started talking. That'd have been fun too.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, all right, thanks everyone. This means a lot to me. I mean, just being able to have your experience and being able to, you know, kind of explain it rather than just hearing it from the old gray guy. You know, it's good to get someone who's actually doing it now, or else just finished, you know, completing cadets training and stuff like that. So well done, and thank you very much. I'm gonna kind of terminate this Zoom session. So does anyone have anything for the group before I do?
I'll just go ahead and send out the slide deck I received from Muxlow. I'll send it to all the cadets that attended, and then I'll just put you, Mr. Ashworth, and Miss Brown a copy. And you,
Yeah, just
Muxlow.
CC me so that I know exactly who got it. That'd be perfect.
Yep.
All right. Have a great
Okay.
evening, everyone.
Good night, guys. Go
Thanks.
home.